So here I am back working on Hyena after a very long hiatus. Um, Not a whole lot to report here other than I've kind of finished a template for each individual room in the ships. And yeah, they're looking pretty swell. Oh, I also fixed the array for the walls, or these hallways when they're generating doors, because for the longest time you would get to the last hallway before the cockpit, and any door you would try in there would malfunction, and it would screw up. And didn't figure out why until last night. So I fixed that. So now all the doors work just fine, and we got little shield generators here. And, just all of them currently have kind of a simplistic look to them, and then bathrooms and stuff. We've seen those. But they aren't as detailed. Like I did shading on these hallways and stuff, and the grading on the floor and everything. I'll go back and probably start working on details like that for each room, probably later. But as of right now, I just wanted to get each room looking right. Here's just an empty janitor's closet, which around the middle part we'll have cleaning droids, and then on that shelf we'll have bottles of bleach and that pink dust that they use in schools, and we'll be able to scavenge those and take them for ourselves. Here's the brig again, still looking all briggy. And yeah, I just kind of did a crunch last night and just shot out some of these rooms. I've been trying to work on this other module idea of making a procedural maze, which are kind of like a procedural dungeon sort of thing, which will work in the long run if I get it figured out, because I can add it to this game and allow more than just ships to explore. Also do the space stations and all that, like I had planned at the beginning. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot to report. I need to get... Oh man, there's so many janitor's closets in this one place. I need to get some sort of fighting mechanic figured out. I had this idea of kind of a real-time action sequence where you enter a room, and then some guy's on the other side of the room, and he starts marching towards you, and then you can right-click to switch to your gun, and then shoot him, and depending on your accuracy, he'll either take damage or you'll just miss. And the idea sounds interesting, but I'd also like to have a team of people show up and have a large group of bad guys in each hallway. And then yeah, the cockpit. Cockpit is the last room that I have to finish before the entire ship is explorable. And then what else was I gonna say? So yeah, I'm debating over whether I should have turn-based, like a strategy combat, or more of a fast-paced, point-and-click, shoot them until they're dead strategy to it. Because with strategy, I say action, more action-y and less strategy. Because with the turn-based strategy idea, you can take time and think, okay, now I need to heal, or now I need to switch over to this. Here's the mess hall here. At the end of the wall over here is the food generator, and then as you can see, I think I have some of the walking areas looking pretty weird. Yeah, it's just stomping all over. I do love that I put in fucking old bar stools in this mess hall, and an old wooden looking table. I think I'm just gonna decide that's a brown table made to look like an old wooden bar to make you feel at home. And here's the infirmary. Here's the up there is the medical laser. Over here is a chair that was modeled after the chair in the gun room, because I figured it'll keep some consistency, keep everything looking like it was each room was just mass produced in this factory, And ooh, tiny room. I also before this I had an option to look for a small ship, a medium ship, or a large ship. Now I'm just kind of making the numbers a bit more random. I keep pushing that. I want to keep restarting. But make the numbers a bit more all over the place. Now it just says happy scavenging. And we have an 8 room now, as you can see up in that upper left. But yeah, so turn-based or real time is what I'm debating with, and whatever one I choose, that's the direction I want to go for. And ultimately, I feel as though going turn based is a bit more better of an option. Although, I don't know, it's always one of those. This is more of a slower adventure game, an explorer kind of game. So having a turn based system would be kind of a more strategic move, and keeping with that slower aesthetic, but or slower mechanic, I guess I would say. But at the same time, it's already going slow. Oh, here's the laboratory with the exact same laser. It's the science laser. It can perform research and it can help you medically, depending on how you calibrate it. And, but so anyway, it's already a slow progress point and click adventure game. It's an exploration adventure. So to have a turn based thing where it stops all of this slow pace and slows it down even more feels I don't know how I feel about it right now. I feel as though it would just slow it down too much, and then people might get bored. But if it's fast paced, if you just come out of that door, then all of a sudden there's a big grug thing over here to your left, then you can switch over to gun and be like, oh shit, I gotta shoot him. And at the same time, dying in this is kind of going to be not really a novelty, but kind of a fun game mechanic, maybe a novelty. But the idea is that, well, the original idea was going to be you are on your own space station called the Hyena, which is a scavenging ship, and you're trying to explore the galaxy and scavenge ships and stuff like that, and you can sell them and you can upgrade your stuff. And in the end, you start finding orbs. You got to go fight the big aliens and blah blah blah. And the idea, it felt like I was trying to force an actual like ending to it. And then I thought of the idea of, well, the main mechanic is you're going ship to ship, or if I finish the maze thing, then you'll be going ships to stations, and just grabbing shit and making money off of it. So I figured, well, a good taking clock to that is by getting captured at the start and having to work off your debt, but essentially being captured by the Federals or whomever, gangsters, somebody you owe money to, and you have to pay off your debt. And so certain things happen. Every time you die, you come back and they add more money to your debt, where it's just like, you will be charged this much, automatically added to your debt. And so the entire time, though, once you come back from these places, like you can attempt to escape via this ship, but you'll be dropped off by the gangsters and picked up by the gangsters and then brought immediately back to their jail cell, where you'll have other characters to interact with probably, and they'll offer you new stuff or give you story like plot elements. It'd be cool if one of them was like, I don't know, an old dude who was keeping up with the news and he was just like, well, here's what's going on in the outside world. You kind of get he's kind of our lore master Crowenshaw, if to date myself on a game that anybody else listening to this would have no idea what I'm talking about. And so to have those characters, but it also provides more endings that way, because I want to have the ending where you pay off your debt and then they let you go, and so you're like, okay, so that was that ending, not that interesting. You have one option for a story where you can attempt to escape from the jail cell and make a break for it without having to pay your debt, which isn't going to be easy at all. It's probably going to be more difficult than just paying off the debt, because paying off the debt is just you playing the mechanic and not really doing anything more. The other one is actually finding the orbs, which I don't remember if one of the diaries actually spoke of of the orb system, where you find fragments of these little red orbs, because it's a science fiction story and there's always going to be some sort of orb or core or gem or something from the elder cosmos that requires you to do something magical. But anyway, you put them together, it makes an orb. If you put two together, it makes a black orb, and allows you to, that's a locked door, allows you to find one of the old elder ships, one of the elder alien races that used to dominate the world, and now they're dormant, and once you go into the first ship, they start becoming more active. And if you can find all those ships and destroy them, then you're a hero. You're the hero story end or whatever. So that's 3 endings right there. I could probably think of a few more later down the road. But ultimately, those are good endings, and they offer some variety. I didn't want to just make this where it's like you have to pay off your debt. It's like, oh well, okay, I guess I'll just do this mechanic that might get boring after a while. Which is why I also want to add later levels where you can start exploring space stations and then research stations on planets. If you I want the teleporter to sometimes be able to take you down to a planet. And if you can navigate your way through that, through the endless desert planet or whatever, and not get eaten or anything like that, kind of similar to the game Galaxy of Fantabulous Wonderment, where you can send a red shirt down to a planet, and it's essentially just a repeating room. That if you go to the right coordinates, you can find an item, but if you wander too far, you get eaten by sandworms and that kind of thing. But they're red shirts, so it's okay. And so I was thinking of trying that, but and also having the peril of possibly getting eaten, a la Space Quest style. But have it be if you can find the proper coordinates, like I do have an item that's a treasure map, so you could maybe find some secret treasure items that'll give you extra credits that pay off your debt, or you could find the entrance to an old research facility or a mining place, yeah, using my words, and then just kind of explore those and have more places to explore. I want this to just be the beginning. Exploring the old module ships of yesteryear, floating out there in the cosmos. And after that, I'll just start. I still got to figure out the maze structure, which I got close to making one last night, but it didn't pan out. Something was off, as most codes do, and it frustrated me. So I just went back to this and started working on the rooms, and now I have almost fully explorable spaceships. So. And I always think it's strange that the way it's designed, it's one of those. I'm pretty sure when I started this idea, it was going to be more similar. It probably fallout from Pompadour Pete, where it was going to start in the airlock, and you go all the way through these hallways that have all these interactive things you can do, and then at the end in the cockpit there's a boss fight. So very Pompadour Pete. But maybe I mentioned this in the previous previous logs of this, but you couldn't go back. You always had to keep going forward. Once you get to the end of the cockpit and beat the boss, then you leave the ship. And there was an event room in the middle where something would happen, but ultimately it was like I kept going down hallways. I'm like, this is not that interesting, which is when I started developing the door thing. Started making doors, and then also made the dynamic array where you could actually go backwards through the ship if you didn't want to go into a certain room, like, oh, this bathroom, I don't have stuff, I don't have a wrench to take the piping out of the shower, and then you go into another room, or I guess another hallway in another room, and you go into the barracks and you search the drawer, and you come back, you're like, oh, I found a wrench in there, so I'll go take those pipes now because they're worth, I don't know, such and such credit. Just little stuff. Making your own narrative inside this story, because that's kind of what procedural stuff, that's kind of what they are. Which I don't know, this isn't even technically procedural, it's just randomized that, sticks with it. But that's the whole gist. And then eventually I'm going to get the air ducts working right. I'm going to get everything working right. Nothing works right now. Nothing's actually, with the exception of the ships being able to be explored for a while. But other than that, it's kind of like, no, can't do anything else. And still kind of, I have a general idea of how to make each room interactive, which, again, I think I mentioned this before, but when you go into, let's say, this gun room, well, we had two barracks, right? So let's say there was a barracks on the other side of the room here, I believe. And let's say we go into these barracks and we explore and we open up all the drawers. We, click on one of the beds and you can actually go in and take a nap, maybe recover like stamina or something. Because I do want to have a run feature where you actually have to have little swarmy guys that'll come after you and try and eat you like Locust. But you go into that bedroom and you explore it and grab a bunch of stuff. And then there was that other bedroom. But I mean, again, this is kind of the one room style of whatever I was going to say. And so when you go into this room, it's also going to be that exact same bedroom. So I'm actually going to have to create a very generic code of arrays of some sort that'll keep track of which drawers are interactive and which drawers in each quote unquote different barracks has been explored, and which ones haven't, and which ones are able to explore, just to kind of create a, once I enter this barracks, maybe maybe one of these top drawers wasn't explorable. Like you open it, and like found nothing, but in this room you find the wrench, and you're like, oh cool. Now there's a wrench in this one, but there wasn't in that one. That makes sense. But then you also have to be able to go back into that room, reopen that same drawer, and find nothing because you already took the stuff in there. It makes sense when I don't talk about it in code. Everything makes sense when I don't talk about it in code. When I start trying to convert it into code, I get confused and I don't know where to go from there. But yeah, it's just one of those things I'll have to figure out. It's fine. I'll just use more arrays. Probably gonna have to start dicking around with structs, which I tried it on the maze thing, but it's what I needed for it was different, and the downside to it is you can't have dynamic arrays with structs because that's just a no-no with this. It just doesn't like it, which in my head it makes sense as to why it should be able to work, but then again I'm not as savvy on code as probably everybody. And so it just does not compute. And that's pretty much all I have to rant about on this one. What else? The gun system. We talked about the fighting. I also thought about having, with the other characters that I built, they were going to tag along with you, and they're like, if you bring the mechanic, he's going to be more mechanically inclined, so it's going to be easier to get into stuff. Which I still like the idea. I still might go for that idea. I also was thinking about another where you're already when you go into the prison, those characters are already there, and you could talk to them. They can, I don't know, raise your skills or go in your place and like help you pay off the debt, or they're just like a part of your team, and the crime lords that captured you hold them responsible just as much as they hold you responsible. That kind of thing. Just have them be there with you. But I also like the idea of him like bringing them along, just so. But if that were the case, I don't know. I guess if that were the case, and I had to go with the fighting mechanic, like all three of them could bust out weapons and like shoot and open fire. But it wouldn't feel. I don't know. If I went that route, I would go strategy over the action packed. Pull a gun out and start shooting. Because then, ultimately, I really should just go with the turn-based strategy style, because it'll feel more fair, and when you die, it won't feel like... Because, I mean, the monster, like... Let's say you just came out of that door, and the monster could be, like, right next to you, or alien, or whatever you want to call it, just randomly placing them somewhere in the room. I'd probably try to keep them at the far end, so they can, like, have time to walk towards you. But, it's cramped space, It's not going to be a lot of time to react, and... if it keeps killing people, it's going to frustrate them. So I'll probably just make it turn-based. And you can see, yeah. It's like, I don't even... This thing's supposed to be in the middle of the room, like kind of floating. But he's like not behind it at all. Again, I just got to work out those. Those aren't important at all. But yeah, so with that, if I go with the multiple people following you along, which I want to... That sounds a lot more interesting, because it'll make it a little bit more strategic. Because if you want to bring the doctor along with you, then it's like, oh, I have a better chance of surviving this because the doctor can heal people and it'll make this a little bit easier. And if you want to have the mechanic come along, it's like, oh, if we come across any sort of robotics that are broken, like if this research laser is broken, he can fix it. And then we can do stuff. We can do research and figure something out. But, Your guy doesn't know research, so instead of the medic and mechanic, you bring the scientist and the mechanic, and the scientist can be like, "Oh yeah, let me punch some stuff in and do some research," and then he'll come out with like a blueprint of something new that you can own or something like that. Just things like that that kind of make having a team a lot more interesting, and it'll make the level up process not as important. It'll actually make character synergy more important. It'll keep me from actually having to worry about buying level up modules or whatever I was going to say, and actually have that be like a rare event. Like, it'll take you a long time to get a level up module, because it's like, no, we'll give you the entire team at the start. They're going to help you do this and that, and then with stuff like the kid and the android, like the kid, I always wanted the kid to be able to climb up into the vents and grab stuff. Like the kid's going to be like kind of the agile, the more thief of the player, or of the characters, because I guess you're the leader / scavenger guy, but not so much like a sneaky thief. You're just more of a Han Solo type, hence the attire. But the kid will be that, and will probably have the ability to have like a hide ability, like they can run a hide and then come back to keep them safe. But they're not good fighters. But see, up in the vents, that's where I'm going to keep cool stuff, and then I'll make little nooks and crannies as well in other places. I don't know, maybe maybe someplace under the desk, probably not here, but somewhere. So yeah, character synergy, explorable rooms, fighting mechanics, probably going to be turn-based, which, if that's the case, I'm going to have to start figuring out. Because I think I could pull it off, but I just have to make some sort of thing where it has multiple enemies for the most part. Like, I don't want them to all just to fight one bad guy, like in like how Pompadour Pete was, because it's not a that mechanic. It's just one of those, like, I needed to program something where I'm like, okay, this fighting mechanic works where you can go back and forth, but now I need something more advanced where you have it counts everybody's speed and rolls initiative, and then each individual has different skill sets. So I need a HUD system for them that will show their skills or something like that. And the monsters, each monster will have different skills and blah blah blah, stuff like that. So it's going to be more difficult. It's something that I should definitely work on soon. But before that, I want to finish making the cockpit, because that's a given. Once I finish that, then all the rooms will be explorable, and it'll actually feel like a cute little module ship. But then after that, I want to start being able to make interactive rooms. Just being able to interact with each thing per room. It's not necessarily going to have the aesthetic of like broken stuff, because these are going to be abandoned ships from like 30 years ago or so. So there's going to be some like damage, and then naturally these things have gotten ransacked before, so there's got to be broken wires and pipes all through these halls, like hanging lights or something. Everything's going to be mashed up here and there, and including the rooms. So as of right now, I made it pristine, so it doesn't so it just looks like ships. This is how they looked and felt 30 years ago, straight out of the shop. Oh, you don't have anything in here on the table, because on the lab table, because you just bought the damn thing. You have to buy your own lab equipment. We provide you with a damn workbench and a science laser and an interface for it, so don't come knocking on our door. Just that sort of thing. Simple stuff to and then that's why the janitor's just looks like a closet, which is, I mean, that's what it is. But there's also, there's going to be cleaning robots and supplies, like I mentioned before. So this has been a long entry, but I guess it's overdue. I haven't been updating this in a while. The hiatus stuff. So yeah, until I get back around to doing this again, which might just put this on hiatus one more time, but I'm gonna try and work on the cockpit, work on the interactions of the rooms after that, and then after that, I might start making like cosmetic details to it, broken pipes and stuff like that. And then I might actually make them mechanical details, where it's like if a pipe is broken on the outside of a room, then it does not work on the inside of the room. Like the power will be off or something like that. And you gotta repair parts of the ship. And then I also have the locked door feature, where some of the doors that show up are actually quote unquote locked and can never be opened. I thought about doing that with regular rooms, because the whole point of that is the ships are modular, and each room is attached to them from the outside, like Legos or something like that, where it's interchangeable. And then this is one of the locked rooms, but interchangeable. And so but I mean, over 30 years, eventually some of those rooms might detach from the ship, and so as a safety feature, they keep it locked forever. And but yeah, that's all I have to report. That's on the docket. Finishing the cockpit's next on the list. Interactive rooms, cosmetic stuff. Might switch it over to mechanic stuff. Combat, and then yeah, after that I can start focusing on getting like an actual interface to make the paying off the debt feature, like the actual game mechanic, the main game mechanic, like a function where you can actually, go back and say, here's what you grabbed, selling all your stuff, here's how much debt you have left, negative billions of dollars. And then yeah, from there, that's a tech demo right there. So look forward to that someday. To whoever listens to these, I'm pretty sure it's still just me, and even I don't listen to these very much. But that's it.